Exactly.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Demosthenes Ikonomou. I'm working at the European Network and Information Security Agency. My first challenge for today was to describe to you what I see as challenges in the area of data protection and privacy, the main ones. Actually, I have another one that just came in. I have a long presentation, which now I have to move back and forth in order to make 10 minutes out of it. So bear with me on that. So the European Network and Information Security Agency was created 10 years ago. Actually, last month was the anniversary of the 10 years of its creation. Its seat, it's in Heraklion, Crete, attached to the Institute of Technology, Fourth, which is based in Heraklion. And currently we have our operational department as of February 2013. Our operational part is moved to Athens. Our main role is to act as an experts body for the European Commission and the European Union bodies and member states. According to our mandate, in theory, we're supposed to be also an advisory board, an advisory body for the industry as well, providing advice and support to industry. But judging on our size, I wouldn't say that we can seriously claim that we can provide support on these things to big industrial players. Our current main clients are therefore the Commission, European bodies and member states. If I will try to summarize in one picture what ENISA does, it's mainly these three areas in the graph. Depending on the topic, we put more emphasis in one of the parts of this graph or the other. It can be the case that it's more than one. So starting from the left side of the picture, one part, as we do as an experts body, as an expert house, is to do studies and provide recommendations, mainly to the Commission for future policy initiatives, adaptations of existing policies in reviews, for instance, and to member states. I forgot to say that the main theme, that is the core of this work, is to mobilize the existing communities within the EU. Now, once you have done the studies, a large part of our work, and actually this is the area where we want to move towards, so starting from the recommendation part, move towards policy implementation and hands-on work. It's the policy implementation part. So in the policy implementation, what we do in essence is taking top-level, high-level policy documents that are produced at the European level, try to see how this can be implemented in practice by the Commission or by member states, depending on the legislation, or both. Finally, the last part, which is probably the area that is most desirable for us to be, it's the one of the hands-on work, where we actually conduct and carry out work for the member states. Notable example of this, for instance, is the area of cybersecurity exercises. Since 2010, ENISA is conducting the Cyber Europe exercises between all member states, or most of the member states. The next Cyber Europe exercise actually takes place this year, and potentially it could be followed, depending on a political agreement, with the second Cyber Atlantic exercise between Europe and the US. I'm saying that this is an area that doesn't depend 100% on us, simply because obviously it needs political decision for ENISA to step in these areas. So for instance, the member states and the European Commission ask ENISA to organize the cyber exercise for the member states. So up to the level where we control, we can say that we can enter to the level of the policy implementation. Beyond that, there needs to be political will at the European Union level and member state level. The area of privacy and data protection, it's an area where, if I may use the term, it's an area where we have quite a few paradoxes. First of all, the problem starts from the fact that we have certain behaviors that people are used in the physical world, which are transferred to the internet. And this actually creates the problem. The internet is not the physical world, and therefore such behaviors create problems in the internet. By nature, we have divergent approaches. So a notable example, for instance, is we have the Data Retention Directive, and at the same time, we have all the initiatives on personal data protection. A very big obstacle is the fact that across the EU, there is various cultures vis-à-vis data protection. The perception at each member state level of data protection varies significantly. And this creates a problem if you want to have a harmonized view, especially for services that cut across borders. Another issue which is very important is the fact that the perception on the user side is very divergent. What you have is that if you talk to users, you usually get the typical reply that to 99% of them, their privacy is a very important issue. But then if you analyze their actions, the conclusion you come is the opposite. We have conducted studies, for instance, in Germany on projects where I mentioned Germany because Germany in the data protection world is considered to be a very cautious country. Users of these studies, they have stressed the fact that to a very large proportion of them, their privacy is very important to them. This is an answer to be expected in Germany, from German users. However, the same users in the project that we were running, they were accepting a rebate of €0.50 or €1 to a ticket offer, provided that they were providing their private information. So you have this paradox, always. Many people, and actually the European Commission has initiatives and ENISA is collaborating with them on this, on the education of the users. However, as I will just show in a couple of slides later, there is certain concerns about how much you can train users and how much you can expect the service providers to take over. There are two more issues that you need to take into account. In my opinion, we have already a large number of technologies available in favor of data protection, to preserve data protection of the citizens. Already, previous speakers made very good presentations on what currently some of the techniques that are available. We have collaborating also with some of the FP7 projects, for instance, on attribute-based credentials. The issue is how these technologies can come up from the industrial, from the technological side, to the marketplace. And there is where we observe, let's say, the problem. We have been working, and a large part of our work has been trying to collaborate with data protection agencies. In essence, ENISA being a body that will carry out, on behalf of data protection agencies, certain projects, certain implementation work, let's say. One thing that we have observed, and if you compare the data protection agencies to, let's say, regulatory agencies in the telco world, is the fact that data protection agencies have a more high-level approach to the problem. They lack constant interaction with the industry. And this is something to be expected, considering that, for instance, compared to the national regulatory agencies, they're bodies that have less lifetime, less kilometers behind them. This we expect that is something that will mature and change over time. But we have always to keep this in mind. They are evolving. The culture of collaboration across the EU between data protection agencies is something that is significantly evolving over time. At least I have been observing this for the last 5 years, and I can say that compared to 5 years ago, it's very much different. The last point that I would like to make is the fact that we cannot ignore that, especially on the online services side, at Europe there is no industry, or there is very little industry compared to what is available outside Europe. And this is a fact. If you compare this to the telco world, in the Europe we had quite a more dominant position on the infrastructure side. This slide just reinforces what I said about the technologies and the fact that technologies are available. This is a typical, let's say, life cycle of data, starting from their creation up to their destruction or decay, whatever happens sooner. There are a number of technologies already available, and we list some of them, that can help into the problems that we see in the data protection and privacy world. For example, the issue of breaches, attribute-based credentials provides a very good solution to the problem, in the sense that if you reduce the amount of data that are being circulated in the internet, definitely you will reduce the amount of cases that you will have breaches. I mentioned earlier the issue of users' education. We have been involved in a number of activities that are spearheaded by the European Commission in the area of user education. of uneducated users, of your average user, let's say, of technology, but also of non-ICT professionals. And these are quite successful across member states. Having said that, what you can see in this graph is a simple flow of the decision-making, let's say, when you take a photo. What a user theoretically should do on how to publish if he wants or she wants to publish a photo, and what is the decision according to the context of the photo. The main point here is that it's not an easy decision. It's quite complex, actually. And this is why people get it wrong. From our experience with working with users, it's not very easy to train the user, and I'm not convinced that users want to be trained on how to do that. Therefore, the responsibility by default has to lie more to the policymaker, the DPAs in our case, and to the industry on making the right decisions for the users. I will move. This slide just shows what is the current situation in terms of breaches. In essence, the amount of information that are already in the internet are huge. Therefore, the chances of a breach is quite high. Actually, this is an interactive graph. If you go, I understand that this will be published. So if you go to the URL provided there, you can see exactly the number of records, what happened. Already some of the big cases are visible. For instance, the Sony PlayStation Network, the PSP data that leaked 1 year or 2 years ago, is there. Already data are available, actually, also for European countries. This is the data from the European, from the ICO, the DPA in UK, where in one block they publish the information that they get from the authorities in UK of the number of incidents that they have of breach of personal data. Just an example of how we perceive our work in collaboration, for instance, with the DPAs. This is a part of the work that we have conducted in collaboration with the group of DPAs, of European DPAs, on implementing data breach notification and how data breach notification can be implemented in a practical way. We have been working with DPAs on this, on how to implement it, even testing it with test data, anonymous test data provided by the DPAs. And this is how ENISA perceives this work. If you can see this part, this is actually the image I showed you earlier, how we can move from the, let's say, the theoretical, the study side of our graph, more to the implementation and the hands-on part of the work. I would like to stop there.
Okay, thank you very much.